The mountains of northern Europe are filled with roads that most people have never heard of. Some are famous for deadly weather. Others are known for dangerous cliffs. But there is one forgotten road that locals refuse to mention after sunset. They call it Raven Pass. It still appears on old maps. Rusted signs still point toward it. Yet almost nobody drives there anymore. The strange part is not that accidents happen there. Roads become dangerous all the time. The mystery is that people simply vanished. Cars were found with their engines still running. Doors were left open. Personal belongings remained exactly where they should have been. But the drivers were never seen again. There were no footprints leading into the forest. No signs of violence. No evidence that anyone had walked away. It was as if the road itself had erased them. For decades, officials blamed bad weather, poor visibility, and difficult terrain. The explanations sounded reasonable, until witnesses began telling the same impossible story. Every survivor described seeing lights where there should have been darkness. They spoke about hearing voices on empty roads. Some claimed another vehicle followed them without ever appearing in their mirrors. Others insisted they crossed the same bridge again and again, even though there was only one bridge in the entire valley. Most people laughed at those stories. Fear can change memory. Stress can create illusions. That was the official explanation. But then investigators discovered something unusual. Every witness described the same landmarks in exactly the same order. They mentioned broken guardrails, abandoned warning signs, a collapsed watchtower, and an old bridge hidden beneath heavy fog. None of these details had ever been released publicly. How could strangers who never met each other remember the same impossible journey? The mystery became even darker when historians searched through forgotten newspaper archives. Long before modern highways existed, travelers had already written about Raven Pass. Horse riders disappeared there. Postal workers vanished without delivering their letters. Entire supply wagons were found abandoned with horses still tied to them. The stories stretched back almost 200 years. Different generations, different technology, different people. Yet every account ended the same way. Someone entered Raven Pass. Very few returned. Those who did never forgot what they saw. Today the road officially remains closed. Concrete barriers block the entrance. Government signs warn people to stay away. Satellite navigation no longer recommends the route. Nature has slowly reclaimed the asphalt. Trees grow through cracks in the road. Fog hangs between the mountains almost every evening. From a distance it looks peaceful, silent, forgotten. But every few months another photograph appears online. Someone claims they found the old entrance. Someone records strange lights deep inside the valley. Someone hears voices where nobody should exist. Most of those posts disappear within days. The accounts are deleted. The videos vanish. The people stop answering questions. Maybe there is a simple explanation. Maybe there is not. Tonight we follow every piece of evidence left behind. Old reports, lost recordings, forgotten witnesses, hidden government files, and one final expedition that entered Raven Pass believing they would finally solve the mystery. They never expected the road to become part of the investigation itself, because according to every official report, no one crossed Raven Pass. Yet something still travels that road after midnight. Months before the final expedition disappeared, an object was delivered to a small regional police station. It looked worthless. A scratched memory card sealed inside a damaged evidence bag. The label simply read, "Recovered near Raven Pass." No vehicle was found nearby. No missing person had officially been connected to it. The card sat untouched for weeks, until a digital forensic technician decided to examine its contents. Most of the files were corrupted. Thousands of broken images filled with static. Fragments of short videos lasting only a few seconds. Then one recording opened without errors. The timestamp showed 11:43 p.m. The camera belonged to a travel photographer named Daniel Mercer. He had spent years documenting abandoned places across Europe. His social media pages were filled with forgotten castles, underground tunnels, and isolated mountain villages. Friends described him as cautious. He never explored dangerous locations without preparation. Before leaving for Raven Pass, Daniel uploaded one final message. He smiled into the camera and said he had found a road surrounded by unbelievable local legends. He joked that ghosts usually stayed away from photographers because cameras scared them more than people. It was the last time anyone saw him. The recovered footage began normally. Rain tapped gently against the windshield. The road stretched ahead through dense pine trees. Daniel quietly described the landscape as beautiful but strangely empty. There were no animals, no passing cars, not even insects striking the headlights. The silence felt unnatural. Several minutes later, he noticed something odd. Road signs began repeating. The same warning sign appeared twice, then a third time. Each one carried identical scratches in exactly the same places. Daniel laughed and assumed the route had simply become confusing. But the camera recorded something impossible. His vehicle never turned around. The road remained perfectly straight, yet somehow, the same sign continued appearing ahead of him. The GPS still insisted he was moving forward. His speed never changed. His direction never changed. But the landscape repeated itself like a broken memory. Daniel finally stopped the car beside an old stone barrier. He stepped outside carrying the camera. Thick fog rolled slowly across the pavement. The air was completely silent. Even the rain had stopped. Then the microphone captured a distant sound. Footsteps, slow, heavy, coming from somewhere inside the fog. Daniel called out several times. Nobody answered. The footsteps stopped immediately. He walked forward only a few meters before freezing. The camera focused on fresh tire tracks crossing the wet road. They looked recent, very recent. Yet there had been no other vehicles for hours. The tracks led directly into the forest where no road existed. Daniel whispered that someone must have driven off the pavement. He followed the tracks with the camera. After less than 20 meters, they simply ended. No crash, no damaged trees, no vehicle. The ground remained untouched beyond that point. It looked as though the car had vanished into empty air. Breathing faster now, Daniel returned to his vehicle. The dashboard clock showed 12:07 a.m. He remembered checking it only moments earlier. According to the recording, nearly 20 minutes had disappeared. Daniel insisted he had been outside for no more than 3 minutes. He restarted the engine and continued driving. That was when another pair of headlights appeared behind him. Relief spread across his face. At last, another traveler. He slowed slightly, expecting the vehicle to overtake him. It never did. The lights remained exactly the same distance behind his car. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Every time Daniel looked into the mirror, the headlights stayed perfectly still, not gaining, not falling back, just watching. He pulled onto the roadside to let the other driver pass. The headlights stopped as well. Neither vehicle moved. Daniel waited almost 2 minutes before stepping outside once again. The road behind him was completely empty. No engine, no lights, no sound, nothing. His breathing became uneven. He climbed back inside, locked every door, and accelerated toward the old bridge marked on his map. As the bridge slowly emerged through the fog, the camera suddenly filled with violent static. The audio cracked with a deep, metallic hum, unlike anything investigators had heard before. For just a fraction of a second, one clear image appeared between the interference. A line of silent figures standing shoulder to shoulder across the bridge. None of them moved. None of them faced the camera. The recording ended there. No final words, no crash, no explanation, only silence. Daniel Mercer was never found. His car has never been recovered. The only thing left behind was the memory card. And according to forensic analysis, the final file had been saved almost 6 hours after the camera stopped recording. When news of Daniel Mercer's disappearance quietly reached local investigators, most assumed it was another isolated missing person case. But one retired historian heard the story and immediately recognized the location. He claimed Raven Pass had been hiding the same mystery for generations. His name was Elias Novak. For more than 40 years, he had collected forgotten newspapers, church records, handwritten journals, and government archives from remote mountain villages. When investigators visited his small stone house, every wall was covered with shelves filled with documents. He did not ask why they had come. Before anyone spoke, he simply said, "You found another one from Raven Pass." Elias unlocked an old wooden cabinet and placed a faded newspaper on the table. The paper was dated May 18, 1891. The headline described the disappearance of a horse-drawn mail coach carrying government documents through Raven Pass. The horses were discovered 2 days later. They were still tied to the wagon. The bags of mail remained untouched. The driver had vanished without leaving a single trace. At first, investigators believed wolves had attacked him, but there was no blood, no torn clothing, no footprints leading into the forest. Even the horses showed no signs of panic. They had simply stood there, waiting. Elias opened another file. This one came from 1913. 3 railway engineers decided to survey a route through the mountains. They entered Raven Pass with measuring equipment, maps, and enough supplies for 5 days. Their camp was discovered exactly where they had pitched it. The fire was still surrounded by cooking pots. Their notebooks lay open on a wooden crate. One compass remained spinning continuously, even though it had stopped working years earlier. The men themselves were gone. No rescue team ever found them. Another folder. 1938. A military transport truck disappeared during a routine journey. Radio operators heard the driver calmly reporting clear weather only minutes before contact was lost. Search crews later found the truck parked beside the road with its headlights still burning. The engine had run until the fuel tank became empty. Inside were rifles, equipment, untouched food, and the driver's cap resting neatly on the seat. There was no driver, no passengers, no evidence that anyone had ever stepped out of the vehicle. By now, investigators noticed something unusual. Every disappearance occurred within the same 5-kilometer section of Raven Pass. Not 10 kilometers, not 20, always the same stretch of road. It became known among locals as the Silent Mile. Elias then produced the oldest document in his collection. Unlike the newspapers, this one was handwritten. Its pages had yellowed with age. The date read 1827. It was the journal of a merchant traveling through the mountains with 2 companions. The first pages described ordinary travel, cold weather, heavy rain, steep roads. Then the handwriting suddenly changed. The merchant wrote that the forest had become completely silent. No birds, no wind, no insects. His companions claimed they could hear another wagon following behind them. Every time they stopped, the sound stopped too. When they continued moving, the unseen wagon returned. The final entry filled only 1 page. We crossed the bridge before sunset. We crossed it again after dark. We crossed it a 3rd time before dawn. There is only one bridge. If someone finds this journal, do not continue forward. Those were the last words ever written. The journal was discovered months later beside the road. The merchant was never seen again. Investigators asked Elias whether he believed these stories. He looked toward the mountains through his window before answering. I stopped asking whether they are true. I started asking why every generation tells the same story. Different centuries, different travelers, different technology. Yet every witness described identical details. The repeating bridge, the silent forest, the unseen follower, the missing time. None of those accounts had ever been published together. Most remained locked away inside forgotten archives, which raised a disturbing question. How had Daniel Mercer described the exact same events before anyone showed him these records? The answer should have been impossible, unless Raven Pass had never changed, unless every traveler had entered the very same mystery, and unless the road had been waiting for the next visitor all along. Daniel Mercer's footage changed everything. For the first time, investigators had something more than old legends and forgotten newspaper reports. They had video evidence showing impossible events. Most experts dismissed it as camera failure, GPS interference, and psychological stress. But not everyone agreed. A small independent documentary team decided the only way to discover the truth was to return to Raven Pass themselves. The team consisted of 5 people. Sarah Klein was the lead investigator. She had spent years exposing abandoned military sites and unsolved disappearances across Europe. Marcus Doyle was a drone specialist who believed every mystery could be explained with enough data. Emma Fisher was a geologist. She had no interest in ghost stories. She wanted physical evidence. Liam Carter handled communications and satellite equipment. And Noah Briggs operated the cameras. Unlike previous explorers, they planned every detail. They carried 3 cinema cameras, 4 body cameras, 2 thermal drones, satellite navigation units from different manufacturers, digital compasses, atmospheric sensors, radio transmitters, backup batteries, time-synchronized watches. Everything was tested repeatedly before departure. Their goal was simple: document every meter of Raven Pass, disprove the legends, or prove them. They reached the road just after sunrise. The entrance looked exactly as described in the old reports. Concrete barriers blocked the original highway. Warning signs had faded almost completely. Trees pushed through broken asphalt. Nature had spent decades reclaiming the forgotten road. Marcus launched the first drone. The live feed showed nothing unusual. A winding mountain road disappeared between endless pine trees. Visibility was excellent. Every instrument reported normal readings. Sarah smiled at the camera. So far, Raven Pass looks like every other abandoned road. For the next 4 hours, the investigation remained uneventful. The team mapped every section, measured radiation, recorded air pressure, collected soil samples, Everything appeared perfectly normal. Even Emma admitted the stories were probably exaggerated. Then they reached an old roadside marker. Its faded paint revealed only two words: Silent Mile. According to every historical report, every disappearance began beyond that point. Marcus checked the drone feed again. The image froze. 5 seconds later it returned. Battery level, 100%. Signal strength, excellent. Yet the drone had stopped responding for exactly 11 seconds. No explanation appeared in the system logs. The team continued. Only a few hundred meters later, Liam frowned at his GPS screen. His location had suddenly jumped 3 kilometers east. Sarah checked hers. It showed them standing inside a lake. Marcus looked at his display. It claimed they were already across the mountain. 3 different devices, 3 different locations, all at the same moment. Emma laughed nervously. This has to be satellite interference. But there was one problem. Satellite interference should affect every receiver in the same way, not send each one somewhere completely different. To eliminate human error, they synchronized every watch again. Each clock matched perfectly. 12:43 p.m. Exactly. They walked another 10 minutes. When Sarah checked her watch again, it read 1:27 p.m. Marcus looked down. His showed 12:58. Emma's displayed 1:14. Liam's still read 12:43. 4 watches. 4 different times. No one had adjusted them. No batteries had failed. No alarms had sounded. They compared the body camera recordings. Every timestamp was different. Some cameras believed only minutes had passed. Others showed nearly an hour. No device agreed with another. For the first time that day, nobody spoke. The road ahead had become unnaturally quiet. No wind touched the trees. No birds crossed the sky. Even their footsteps sounded strangely distant. Marcus whispered, "Do you hear that?" Everyone stopped. They listened carefully. Nothing. Exactly nothing. The silence itself felt wrong. Then, a radio sitting inside Liam's backpack crackled to life. No one had pressed the transmit button. Static filled the speaker. Then a voice emerged. Calm, weak, almost buried beneath the interference. "Turn back." The team froze. Liam grabbed the radio. "This frequency isn't active." Another burst of static. Then another sentence. "Don't cross the bridge." Sarah immediately asked, "Who's transmitting?" No answer, only silence. Marcus checked every nearby emergency frequency. Nothing. No aircraft, no rescue services, no local broadcasts. The signal had come from nowhere. Emma tried explaining it away. Old military equipment. Atmospheric reflection. Maybe another station bounced through the valley. No one believed it, because the voice had spoken with perfect clarity, as if someone were standing only a few meters away. Then Noah slowly pointed his camera toward the road ahead. The fog had returned. It hadn't drifted in from the mountains. It hadn't rolled down the valley. It had appeared. One moment the road was clear. The next, a wall of pale gray mist stood across the highway. Motionless. Waiting. Hidden somewhere inside that fog, according to every witness who had ever escaped Raven Pass, was the old bridge, and no investigation had ever remained the same after crossing it. Nobody suggested turning back. Not because the team was fearless, because they had spent years investigating places that frightened other people. Every strange sound eventually found an explanation. Every mystery ended with evidence, or so they believed. Sarah looked at the others. If the bridge is really there, this is the moment every story has been leading to. Marcus launched the second drone. Unlike the first, this one carried a thermal camera capable of detecting heat through dense fog. The drone climbed above the treetops. The live feed remained crystal clear. The bridge appeared exactly where the old map said it should. Stone arches, broken guardrails, an empty road stretching across the valley. Everything looked normal. Then Marcus switched to thermal view. 5 bright human-shaped figures appeared standing on the bridge. Perfectly still. No movement. No change in body temperature. Sarah immediately looked toward the bridge. There was nobody there. Only fog. Marcus zoomed in. The thermal figures remained visible. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Emma grabbed a pair of binoculars. "I can't see anyone." Marcus rotated the drone. The figures disappeared. He rotated back. They returned. Exactly where they had been before. Liam checked the drone's recorded footage. The figures were missing. Only the live transmission showed them. Nothing had been saved onto the memory card. Sarah whispered. So we're seeing something that the camera refuses to record. Nobody answered. The silence felt heavier than before. The team slowly walked toward the bridge. Halfway across, every GPS receiver shut down at exactly the same second. Not a warning, not a weak signal. Complete failure. The screens turned black. Backup batteries changed nothing. Satellite communication stopped. Emergency beacons disconnected. Even digital compasses refused to respond. Only one instrument continued working. An old magnetic compass Emma carried for comparison. Its needle began spinning, slowly at first, then faster, until it became a silver blur. Emma stared at it. I've never seen this happen. Marcus suddenly stopped walking. He was looking behind them. There are footprints. Everyone turned. Fresh footprints stretched across the damp bridge. Boot prints. The same size as Liam's. The strange part, they were not behind Liam. They began several meters ahead of him. As though someone wearing his boots had already crossed the bridge before the team arrived. Liam stepped beside the prints. They matched perfectly. Same tread, same size, same damage on the right heel. Impossible. He had never walked there before. Sarah photographed every print. The camera flashed normally. When she reviewed the images, the footprints had vanished. The bridge appeared completely empty. No evidence remained. Marcus laughed nervously. I don't like this place anymore. Before anyone replied, the radio crackled again. Not static this time. Voices, several voices, speaking over one another. Too distorted to understand. Liam adjusted the frequency. The interference became clearer. A woman's voice. Unit 3, we've lost visual. A man's voice interrupted. Repeat. Bridge is changing. Another voice. Don't let them. The transmission cut off. Emma frowned. Those radios use modern frequencies. Sarah shook her head. No, she had already checked the archived emergency reports. The phrases sounded familiar, almost identical. From a rescue operation conducted in 1978. Words that had never been released publicly. Marcus suddenly noticed movement above them. The drone. It had returned on its own. Nobody had recalled it. It hovered directly above the bridge, perfectly still. Its camera pointed straight down. Marcus opened the live feed. The screen showed the 5 investigators standing together. Then, a 6th figure, standing in the middle of the group. Tall, motionless, its face hidden beneath a dark hood. Everyone looked around. There were only 5 people on the bridge. Marcus slowly lowered the controller. Please tell me someone else can see that. No one answered. Sarah looked back at the monitor. The hooded figure was gone. Only the team remained. Marcus replayed the recording. Nothing. The 6th figure did not exist. It had appeared only once. Live. Never recorded. Emma took a slow breath. I think. She stopped speaking. Sarah looked at her. What? Emma pointed toward the opposite end of the bridge. The fog had begun to separate. Not because of the wind. There was no wind. It moved, as if someone invisible were walking through it. One step at a time. Toward them. And with every step, the temperature dropped. Not by 1 degree. Not by 5. Within seconds, their sensors recorded a fall from 12 degrees to -4. Frost spread across the stone beneath their feet. Their breath turned white. The batteries inside 2 cameras instantly died. Then, from somewhere inside the fog, came the unmistakable sound of footsteps. Slow, heavy, steady. Exactly the same sound Daniel Mercer had captured before he disappeared. This time, it wasn't on a recording. It was only a few meters away. No one moved. The footsteps continued. Slow, measured, never speeding up, never slowing down. Each one echoed through the freezing air with impossible clarity. Sarah raised her flashlight and aimed it into the fog. The beam disappeared after only a few meters. It was as though the mist absorbed the light itself. Marcus quietly counted the footsteps. 1, 2, 3. Then they stopped. The silence returned. Emma checked the temperature sensor. -7 degrees. Only seconds earlier, it had shown 12. No weather system could explain such a change. Sarah took a cautious step forward. The others followed. As they reached the center of the bridge, Noah suddenly stopped walking. He stared toward the stone railing. I've been here before. Everyone turned toward him. Noah, Sarah said calmly, this is your first visit. He slowly shook his head. No, I know that crack in the stone. I know those missing bricks. I know what's under the bridge. Nobody answered. He sounded completely certain. Marcus tried to joke. "You've probably seen old photographs." Noah ignored him. Without another word, he walked toward the edge and looked down. The river below should have been roaring after days of rain. Instead, there was no water, only darkness, an endless black space beneath the bridge. Emma leaned over the railing. "I can't see the river." Marcus aimed a powerful spotlight downward. The light vanished into the darkness. No reflection, no riverbank, no bottom. It was like shining a flashlight into an empty sky. Sarah checked an old survey map. According to every geological record, the river beneath the bridge was nearly 20 meters deep. It could not simply disappear. Liam tied a climbing rope to the stone railing. He lowered a metal carabiner into the darkness. 20 meters, 30, 40, 50. The rope continued falling. There was still no sound, no splash, nothing. Marcus looked at the remaining rope. We only brought 60 meters. When the final length slipped over the railing, the carabiner still hadn't reached anything. Liam slowly pulled the rope back. The metal hook was covered in frost. Not water, not mud, only ice. Emma examined it closely. It should be impossible. Before anyone could respond, the bridge trembled. Not violently, just enough for loose stones to rattle. Then every camera briefly lost power. The blackout lasted less than 2 seconds. When the screens came back, something had changed. The forest behind them was gone. In its place stood another bridge, identical, stretching into thick fog. Sarah spun around. The bridge ahead looked exactly the same. Stone arches, broken railing, heavy mist. Marcus whispered, "Which direction did we come from?" Nobody answered. No one knew anymore. The team marked the pavement with bright orange spray paint, a large arrow pointing back the way they believed they had entered. They walked toward it. After less than a minute, the same arrow appeared beneath their feet again, fresh, undisturbed. They had somehow returned to the exact place where they started, without turning around, without noticing. Emma's breathing became uneven. This isn't possible. Marcus checked the drone's flight path. According to its map, the team had never moved. It showed all 5 investigators standing in one location for the last 12 minutes, yet every body camera clearly recorded them walking. Sarah replayed Noah's footage. Halfway through the recording, something appeared beneath the bridge, not in the darkness, standing inside it. A lone figure, perfectly still, its face hidden, its hands resting at its sides. Noah had never pointed his camera toward that spot, yet somehow, the figure had entered the frame. Sarah paused the video. The timestamp froze. 11:58. Marcus looked at his own camera. It displayed 2:17. Emma's showed 12:31. Liam's read 1:46. Time itself no longer agreed. Noah suddenly stepped backward. His face had turned pale. "I just remembered something." Everyone looked at him. "When I was a child, my father drove through a mountain road. He told me to close my eyes before we reached a bridge. I always thought it was just a story." He looked toward the fog. "I don't think it was." Sarah frowned. "Your father never mentioned Raven Pass?" Noah slowly nodded. "He did, but only once. He said, 'If you ever find the bridge again, don't look underneath it.'" At that exact moment, a child's laughter echoed from beneath the bridge. Soft, distant, followed by another, then another. The sound spread through the darkness below them. Not one child, dozens, laughing together. Marcus looked over the railing, despite every warning. His expression changed instantly. His hands began shaking. Sarah grabbed his shoulder. "What did you see?" Marcus couldn't answer. His eyes remained fixed on the darkness below. Finally, he whispered 4 words. "They're looking back at us." Marcus refused to speak for almost an hour. The team led him away from the bridge and into a small clearing, where they established a temporary camp. No one mentioned what had happened. No one wanted to. Marcus sat beside the fire, staring into the flames. His hands would not stop shaking. Whenever Sarah asked what he had seen beneath the bridge, he gave the same answer. "I don't think they were below us." That sentence frightened the team more than anything else. Because if they were not below the bridge, where had they been? As night settled over Raven Pass, Liam finally restored one of the satellite radios. A weak connection reached the outside world. Before anyone could report their findings, an unexpected message arrived. It was not from emergency services. It was from a retired detective named Adrian Varga. He had spent 30 years investigating disappearances connected to Raven Pass. When he heard the team's location, he asked only one question. "Have you crossed the bridge?" Sarah hesitated. Yes. The detective remained silent for several seconds. Then he replied, You need to leave immediately. Not tomorrow. Now. Sarah asked why. His answer was simple. Because everyone who crosses that bridge changes. The next morning, against the detective's advice, the team drove to a nearby village to meet two people whose names had never appeared in any public investigation. Both had survived Raven Pass. Neither had ever returned. The first survivor was 78-year-old Anna Weiss. She lived alone in a small farmhouse overlooking the mountains. When Sarah mentioned Raven Pass, Anna immediately closed every curtain in the house. Only then did she begin speaking. She explained that in the autumn of 1968, she and her younger brother had driven through the pass after visiting relatives. The road was empty. The weather was clear. Nothing seemed unusual. Then they reached the bridge. Halfway across, her brother suddenly asked, Why is everyone standing below us? Anna looked over the railing. She saw nothing. When she turned back toward the road, her brother was gone. The passenger door remained closed. His seatbelt was still fastened. His coat lay folded on the seat. But he had disappeared. Without opening the door, without making a sound. Police accused Anna of inventing the story. Some believed she had abandoned her brother. Others suspected murder. No evidence was ever found. She never drove through Raven Pass again. Before the team left, Anna said one final sentence. Don't believe the road when it lets you leave. Sarah asked what she meant. Anna simply shook her head. I've never been certain that I did. The second survivor was even more mysterious. His name was Victor Hale. According to official records, he disappeared inside Raven Pass in 1989. Search teams spent 12 days looking for him. The investigation ended when he was declared dead. Yet 23 years later, Victor walked into a police station, alive, healthy, uninjured. He believed he had been missing for only one night. Medical examinations confirmed something impossible. His body had aged only a single day. Everything else had aged 23 years. His fingerprints matched. His DNA matched. Even a childhood scar on his left shoulder matched hospital records. There was no doubt it was Victor. When Sarah met him, he appeared calm, almost emotionless. She asked him the question everyone wanted answered. What happened inside Raven Pass? Victor looked out the window toward the distant mountains. I kept driving. The road never ended. I passed the same bridge. Again, and again, and again. He could never explain how many times. Eventually, he stopped counting. Then he noticed another car driving beside him. It matched his own vehicle exactly. Same color, same damage, same license plate. Inside, he saw himself. The other Victor looked directly at him, raised one hand, then smiled. Not a friendly smile, a smile of recognition. Moments later, everything went dark. When Victor opened his eyes, he was sitting alone inside his car at the entrance to Raven Pass. He believed only hours had passed. The world told him 23 years were gone. Sarah compared Victor's account with Anna's. The similarities were impossible to ignore. Neither survivor had ever met. They lived hundreds of kilometers apart. Yet both described the same bridge, the same silence, the same overwhelming feeling that someone was watching from just beyond the fog. As the interview ended, Victor stopped Sarah before she reached the door. There is one thing I never told the police. Sarah turned back. Victor's expression had changed. I still see him. Who? Myself. Sometimes, I look across a crowded street. Sometimes I see him standing at the edge of a parking lot. Sometimes he's reflected in windows. He never comes closer, he only watches. And every year, he gets one step nearer. No one spoke during the drive back to Raven Pass. Because for the first time, the mystery was no longer about disappearing. It was about returning. And whether the people who came back were truly the same people who had gone in. The interviews with Anna Weiss and Victor Hale changed the direction of the investigation. Until then, the team had searched for ghosts, criminals, or hidden accidents. Now they were searching for something else. Something that could explain why people returned with missing years, or why some never returned at all. Sarah contacted every archive she could find. Most replied with the same answer. No records existed. But 3 days later, an anonymous package arrived at her hotel. There was no return address. Only a single sentence typed across the front. Stop looking above the mountain, look beneath it. Inside were photocopies of heavily classified government documents. Most pages had been blacked out. Dates, names, locations. Almost everything important had been removed. but enough remained to tell a disturbing story. The first report was dated 1964. It described a geological survey beneath Raven Pass. Engineers had discovered a vast underground chamber unlike any natural cave in the region. The rock surrounding it contained unusually high magnetic properties. Compasses became unreliable. Radio signals disappeared. Mechanical watches gained or lost time without explanation. Scientists initially believed they had found a rare geological anomaly. Then the experiments began. Teams placed synchronized clocks at different points around the mountain. When they returned 12 hours later, no two clocks agreed. Some had advanced, others had stopped completely. One clock appeared to have moved backward. The researchers blamed faulty equipment, so they repeated the experiment again and again. The results never matched. The deeper they entered the mountain, the stranger the measurements became. Another report described repeated failures of radio communication. Operators transmitted simple test messages. The replies they received had not yet been sent. Entire conversations appeared before they actually happened. One engineer reportedly heard his own voice warning him not to continue. The warning arrived 31 minutes before he spoke those exact words. He resigned the following week. Another document mentioned visual distortions. Researchers claimed they occasionally saw people walking through the tunnels. When approached, the figures vanished. Security cameras never captured them. Only eyewitnesses reported seeing them. The phenomenon became known inside the files as echoes. No explanation accompanied the name. Only one handwritten note remained visible. Do not interact if visual contact occurs. The next folder contained an emergency report. It was dated October 17, 1972. A maintenance crew entered one of the lower tunnels beneath Raven Pass. 6 workers went inside. Only 4 returned. The survivors insisted the missing men had been walking beside them moments earlier. Every photograph taken during the operation showed all 6 workers together, until the final image. In that photograph, only 4 people remained. The missing workers had disappeared from the picture itself, as though they had never been standing there. Emma examined every page carefully. One paragraph caught her attention. It described an experiment involving continuous sound waves. Researchers discovered that a low-frequency vibration naturally existed beneath the mountain, too low for human hearing. Yet prolonged exposure caused confusion, memory loss, disorientation, and powerful feelings of being watched. The report suggested the mountain itself was constantly producing the signal. No machine, no hidden transmitter. The rock. Sarah looked up. So maybe everything we've seen has a scientific explanation. Emma wasn't convinced. She turned to the final document. Unlike the others, it contained no technical language, only a brief incident summary. Project Raven. Status: permanently terminated. Reason: uncontrolled event. Every line below that heading had been removed, except the final sentence. The bridge must remain inaccessible. Nothing more. No signatures, no explanation. No record of what Project Raven had actually been. As night approached, the team returned to the bridge one final time. They intended to compare the classified reports with everything they had already recorded. Marcus launched both drones simultaneously. This time, neither drone transmitted video. Instead, every monitor displayed the same image. A live view of the bridge, perfectly clear, except for one detail. 5 people were standing in the middle of it. The documentary team counted themselves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then Sarah noticed something impossible. The figures on the screen were not standing where they were. They were standing several meters behind them, watching. Every person on the monitor remained perfectly still. No breathing, no movement, no gestures, only silent observation. Sarah slowly turned around. The bridge behind them was empty. She looked back at the screen. The figures were still there. Then, one of them lifted its head. Another raised an arm. The real team had not moved, yet their doubles had. Marcus whispered, "Those aren't reflections." Emma stared at the monitor in disbelief. "No, they're waiting." At that exact moment, every radio, every camera, every recorder, every electronic device activated by itself, and through every speaker came the same calm voice, clearer than ever before. "You crossed once." A long pause followed. Then the voice spoke again. "Now cross back." The voice faded. Every speaker went silent at exactly the same moment. No static, no interference. Only complete silence. Sarah looked around. Did everyone hear that? No one answered. They didn't need to. Every face carried the same expression. The message had been unmistakable. Now cross back. Marcus checked the audio recordings. Every microphone had captured the voice. The waveform appeared perfectly normal, but when he pressed play, there was nothing. Not a single sound. The waveform remained. The audio had vanished. Emma studied the bridge. If we came from one side, she paused, then which side is back? No one knew. Both directions looked identical. The same cracked stone, the same broken guardrails, the same wall of fog. There was no beginning anymore, no end. Sarah made the decision. We cross together. No one separates. If anything happens, we keep walking. The 5 investigators stepped forward. The air immediately became colder. Each breath hung motionless. Even the fog stopped moving. Halfway across the bridge, Liam suddenly froze. My phone. He slowly lifted it from his pocket. The screen had turned on by itself. There was no signal, no battery icon, only one incoming call. Unknown twice. The phone continued ringing. Once, twice, 3 times. Liam answered. No one spoke. Then he heard his own voice. Weak, panicked. If you're hearing this, don't finish crossing. We already did. The call disconnected. The phone shut itself off. Its battery had been fully charged only minutes earlier, before Liam could tell the others. Sarah stopped walking. Ahead of them, 5 people were emerging from the fog. Same height, same clothing, same equipment. Marcus whispered, "No!" The figures continued approaching. Each carried the same cameras, the same backpacks, the same orange safety helmets. Then Sarah realized the truth. They were looking at themselves. The other team stopped only a few meters away. No one spoke. No one blinked. It was like staring into perfect mirrors. Except, their expressions were different. The other Sarah looked exhausted. The other Marcus had blood on his sleeve. The other Emma was missing her helmet. The other Liam held a broken radio. The other Noah's camera was hanging by its strap, cracked beyond repair. They looked like people who had survived something terrible. Sarah raised one hand. Her double did the same, at exactly the same speed. Marcus slowly stepped sideways. His double copied him perfectly. Emma whispered, "What happens if we touch them?" No one wanted the answer. Without warning, the other Sarah spoke. Not loudly, almost gently. "You shouldn't have come back." The real Sarah stared in disbelief. "What are you?" Her double smiled sadly. "The same question. We asked you." The bridge shook violently. This time the movement did not stop. Stone cracked beneath their feet. The fog spun around them like a storm. Every camera began recording on its own. Warning lights flashed across every screen. Recording, recording, recording. Marcus looked down at his monitor. The live image no longer showed 2 teams. It showed only one, but it wasn't clear which one. The doubles began walking forward, not aggressively, calmly, silently, until they were standing face to face, only inches apart. Sarah could hear her own breathing. Twice. One from herself, one from somewhere directly in front of her. Then, everything went black. No explosion, no scream, no impact, only darkness. The official livestream ended at 11:58 p.m. Millions of viewers watching later would report seeing a single frame before the transmission failed. 5 investigators standing on Raven Pass, a 6th figure behind them, watching. Then the signal disappeared forever. Rescue teams arrived before sunrise. The documentary vehicles were still parked beside the entrance. Every engine was cold. Every door was locked. Inside the command vehicle, dozens of hard drives continued recording. The clocks had all stopped. 11:58. Exactly. The bridge was empty. No footprints. No equipment. No investigators. Only one camera remained. Its battery should have been dead. Instead, it was still recording, pointed toward the center of the bridge, where, for just a fraction of a second, 5 shadowy figures could be seen walking into the fog. And just before the file ended, a 6th figure quietly followed them. The disappearance of the documentary team became international news. For weeks, helicopters searched the mountains. Rescue dogs followed every possible trail. Military drones scanned the forests with thermal cameras. Divers searched the river beneath the bridge. Nothing was found. No footprints. No abandoned backpacks. No broken cameras. No signs that 5 people had ever been there. Official investigators eventually reached the same conclusion that had appeared in dozens of older case files. Missing. Presumed dead. But not everyone accepted that explanation. Digital forensic experts spent months examining the recovered equipment. Every memory card contained hours of footage. Yet the deeper they looked, the stranger the recordings became. Some files showed sunrise before sunset. Others recorded conversations that never happened. Several cameras contained footage from locations the team had never visited. One recording lasted exactly 14 hours. Inside the video, the investigators never appeared. Only the empty bridge, the fog, and the sound of distant footsteps. Always walking, never arriving. Engineers confirmed the files had not been edited. No evidence of manipulation, no hidden cuts, no artificial intelligence. The recordings were authentic, yet impossible. Then came the final discovery. One damaged body camera contained a single frame that had gone unnoticed. The image lasted less than 1/10 of a second. After enhancing it, analysts believed they could identify 6 people standing together near the bridge. 5 matched the missing investigators. The 6th could not be identified. Its face was hidden. Its proportions appeared almost human. Almost. The image quickly spread across the internet. Some claimed it proved the existence of something waiting inside Raven Pass. Others argued it was nothing more than digital corruption. No agreement was ever reached. Years passed. Nature continued swallowing the old highway. The government permanently sealed every known entrance. Concrete walls replaced the original barriers. Warning signs disappeared. Official maps quietly removed the road altogether. To the outside world, Raven Pass had ceased to exist. But stories refused to disappear. Truck drivers crossing nearby highways reported seeing headlights moving deep within the abandoned valley after midnight. Search and rescue pilots occasionally detected brief radio transmissions from an area where no equipment should have existed. The messages were always incomplete. Fragments of ordinary conversations. A weather report. Someone reading map coordinates. A man laughing. Then silence. In 2024, a group of hikers claimed they accidentally found the old entrance. They photographed the cracked sign marked Raven Pass. When they returned the following week with local authorities, the road was gone. Only untouched forest stood where the entrance had been. Satellite imagery offered no answers. Some images showed the bridge. Others, taken only days later, showed dense woodland instead. Experts blamed seasonal shadows, image processing errors, poor weather conditions. None of those explanations satisfied the people who had experienced the place themselves. Today, no verified evidence proves what truly happened at Raven Pass. Perhaps powerful magnetic fields distorted electronics. Perhaps underground geology affected human perception. Perhaps classified experiments left behind consequences that were never fully understood. Or perhaps, the oldest stories were closer to the truth than anyone wanted to believe. Because for nearly 2 centuries, travelers described the same bridge, the same silence, the same impossible journey, long before cameras, long before satellites, long before anyone could fake evidence. One final detail remains unexplained. Every person who claimed to survive Raven Pass gave investigators the exact same answer when asked a simple question. What was the last thing you saw before you escaped? No matter their age, no matter the year, no matter where they lived, they all answered with the same sentence. I saw someone walking toward the bridge. When investigators asked who that person was, every survivor gave the same reply. It was me. So maybe the greatest mystery of Raven Pass was never the road, never the bridge, never the mountain. Maybe the real mystery was this. If every survivor saw themselves entering the pass, then who was the version that came back? And if the answer is still waiting somewhere beyond the fog, perhaps the road was never trying to stop people from leaving. Perhaps it was only making sure something always returned. The next time you find yourself driving through an unfamiliar mountain pass after dark, and you notice the same road sign appearing again, and again, and again, don't keep driving just because your map says you're moving forward. Some roads don't lead to another destination. Some roads lead back to you, and Raven Pass may still be waiting for its next traveler.